So with the little river that we have here at the bottom, I'm going to load a dry brush. You can see that this is not formed into a point, and I'm just going to make a little bit of a feeling of mountains or maybe little hills forming outside of this to give a sense that maybe this river is at the foot of some very high or steep mountains. And again, I'm pulling down horizontally. Very important for the brush strokes not all to be the same staggered depth. You don't want to have 2 or 4 inch intervals. You don't want your mountain to look as though it's kind of symmetrical like you see over here. You want it to be a little bit more asymmetrical always. Using a very, very dry brush gives you the chance to get a lot more texture into your mountains. And again, a little bit more of a feeling of a rock down here. And always a good idea to make quite a lot of ink before you begin, so you get a chance to really enjoy your practice without constantly having to stop and make more ink when you're in the middle of your creation. So do the proper preparation. You can see that my brush is really quite dry as I do this. And in order to increase the pigment, I just have to decrease the speed of my brush. So don't always feel that your brush needs to be very, very wet. All you have to do is adjust the speed, just as you did when you were learning bamboo. So this is another very, very important point. Often there's a lot more moisture in your brush, and look how slowly I'm going now. And you see much more of the pigment than one thinks. So try not to be impatient. Go nice and slow. You can go into your water palette as well, get a little bit more to add a little bit more tonality or some gray in there. So now we get a little bit more of a sense of the mountains and the rocks. Mountains are highly, highly subjective. Really, there are some rules about how they're doing them. This is just a very, very simple way. I'm putting a little bit of sideways dots or vegetation. These are called me dots, M-I, me dots, and these give a little bit of a feeling of summer vegetation, maybe some trees that are growing on these steep mountains. These mountains are obviously not the kind that one would find necessarily here in North America. These are pretty much sort of Chinese style mountains in the southern part of China. And I can do the same thing on the other side as well. The little bit of vegetation you notice is coming out horizontally from the cliff. So we can imagine that these are little trees that are growing off of these incredible outcroppings. And as we recede in the distance, they become just these little traces. But maybe here in the foreground, you might have something more like a little hillock where you might have more of a representation of a tree. So again, just you can wash it all in with a darker color, and you can see how that changes things pretty substantially as you put that in. And this same technique that's used for water, if you wanted to, I could completely change the look of this and add a waterfall coming down in through here if I wanted, and make this appear as though they're not, mountains in the distance, but in fact, just to give you a sense that this is really like 2 rocks, and that there's a waterfall coming down in between, and then this is something that's a bit more in scale. So sumi-e painting really gives you a lot of different options when you're starting.